Coming up on Mountain News this morning, there's a meat recall in Kentucky and other states after another company reports an outbreak of listeria. And Governor Beshear publicly denounced Kentucky Amendment 2 as folks get ready to cast their ballot in November.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News This Morning.
Good morning, I'm Madison Carmouche. We're coming up on 5:30. Thanks for joining us this morning. Today is October 16th. Let's check in with meteorologist Megan Dusmall for a look at your forecast. Megan, we've got an eye on the weather this morning, huh?
Oh yeah, we've definitely got an eye on these cold temperatures. It's going to be a cold day, unfortunately. And if we even look outside the door, we're looking at those 30s, 40s for our current temperatures. Taking a look, we're seeing 34 degrees in Irvin, 39 in Jackson, 44 in Harlan. It's going to be a cold day, so make sure you're bundling up this morning as you are leaving. And speaking of the cold, we're under a frost advisory across the board for most every county with the exception of our Tennessee counties and Wise and Lee, Virginia. Lawrence, however, they're under a freeze warning, so that is something to be wary for. This will be expiring this morning at 9 a.m. Taking a look at those high temperatures for today, though, we will be inching up to the mid 50s, so it'll get a little bit warmer, but not by too much. Taking a look at the next 12 hours, though, as we slowly get to that warmness, we'll have a little bit of clouds peeking through the afternoon, but overall, it'll be a nice day. Madison?
All right, Megan, thank you. The Fayette County Health Department is tracking a massive food recall. The USDA issued a warning about this month nearly 10 million pounds of possibly contaminated product ready to eat and frozen meals from brands like Dole, Great Value, and Good and Gather might contain listeria bacteria. It can be deadly, especially for older people, pregnant women, and people with weakened immune systems.
It's important for people to pay attention to this because unfortunately people died from the listeria outbreak earlier in the year. We don't want to see that happen now.
The company Bruce Pack produced the potentially contaminated meat. So far, there have been no confirmed illnesses. You can find a list of the affected products on the WYMT News app. Federal officials are taking a closer look at how U.S. Agriculture Department and state inspectors handled the deadly listeria outbreak at a Boar's Head deli plant in Virginia. The USDA has launched an internal investigation into how the agency responded to reports of serious violations at a Boar's Head plant in Jarrett, Virginia. At least 10 people died and nearly 50 were hospitalized after a listeria outbreak linked to Boar's Head deli meat, including liverwurst.
These deaths and hospitalizations were preventable, and they should have been preventable. I want to get to the bottom of why the Boar's Head plant was permitted to continue operating in the face of repeated violations.
Senator Richard Blumenthal declined to release the USDA's response. The plant is now closed and Boar's Head no longer produces liverwurst anywhere. Kentucky lawmakers are working outside of the normal legislative session on a bill that would hold legal guardians civilly liable for damage caused by firearms in the hands of a child. Republican State Representative Kim Bonta says families should be cautious of what children do with firearms that belong to parents. Bonta's bill would hold parents accountable for civil liability, meaning there would be monetary penalties instead of jail time.
Not telling you have to lock it up. I'm just asking people to think about it and know that if your child takes a gun and shoots the neighbor's dogs, that you're going to have to probably buy them a new dog.
Representative Tina Bojanowski, a Democrat from Louisville, is set to be the primary co-sponsor of the bill. Kentucky State Senator Johnny Turner will now be running opposed in the race for the 29th Senate District. The Secretary of State's website says independent candidate David Sir has officially withdrawn from the race. Senator Turner says he wishes Sir and his family well in all of their future endeavors. Turner continues to recover from injuries sustained last month during a lawnmower incident. Yesterday evening, folks gathered at the Perry County Public Library for a candidate forum. The event had an open floor for audience members to ask candidates questions. There was also a live stream that allowed viewers to submit questions. Assistant Commonwealth's Attorney Jonathan Wilder and former Commonwealth's Attorney John Hanson are running for Commonwealth's Attorney. One question involved plans to promote civil rights.
That is the single biggest power that we have to influence civil rights, is our ability as this body to influence what the legislature does about what we see. But civil rights is not just black and white, and we do have a significant minority population here in Perry County, and we need to make sure that those people are taken care of.
But if you go across that line and you're being picked on because of the civil rights, the new laws that have just passed, that is the Kentucky Safety Act, have provisions in there that will allow you to kind of go after these folks a little bit more.
The first hour of the forum was for 84th District State Representative candidates. Democrat Zach Hall was there. Incumbent Republican Chris Fugit did not attend. A number of students, community leaders, and Governor Andy Beshear came together to voice their opposition to Amendment 2. The proposed amendment would allow state funding to be used for non-public education. Opponents say the amendment would gut funding for public schools and put more strain on schools already struggling across the state. Yesterday, the governor underscored his belief the amendment would be disastrous for public education in Kentucky.
The state budget has a certain amount, and if you take a big chunk of it out, there's nothing to replace it for our public schools. You're seeing real challenges in other states.
Those who support Amendment 2 say the amendment would give parents more say in which school their child attends. Researchers with the University of Kentucky are leading a study to better understand what made the July 2022 floods so devastating and how to prepare for future floods. The study will look at long-term data gathered from UK's Robinson Forest. Researchers say the study hopes to result in better early warning systems to help people evacuate communities before flooding gets worse.
We will be focusing on analysis of long-term data from UK's Robinson Forest. We've got about 50 years of stream flow data and precipitation data. So we'll be working to analyze those data to better understand how precipitation and stream flow are changing over time, potentially as related to climate change.
The project funding also includes outreach to Eastern Kentucky middle and high schools to support science and education programs. This Saturday is National Move Over Day, a day to remind drivers about recent changes to the Slow Down Move Over law. This summer, the law expanded to include any disabled vehicle with its warning signals on. AAA of the Bluegrass says that nationally, approximately one driver every 6 days dies from being hit by a car on the road during work. Tow truck driver Jacob Nash says he feels strongly about not becoming that statistic.
People that don't want to move over, be ashamed of yourself. People's got lives and they've got families at home. They don't want to be called in the middle of the night saying, hey, somebody's just got run over by a car.
If moving over is impossible, drivers must reduce their speed when approaching disabled vehicles. A legendary East Tennessee and Southwest Virginia broadcaster died Monday. Johnny Wood worked for WCYB in Bristol for 44 years before retiring in 2012. He was known for his many years anchoring the morning newscast, his weekly fishing reports, and his Lunch with Johnny segments. Friends can come by Weaver Funeral Home in Bristol between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. Thursday and Friday to sign a register book. Johnny Wood was 82. Another East Tennessee native that spent decades in the healthcare industry has died. Charles Housley died in Lexington Saturday. He was born in Lafayette, Tennessee, and worked in various healthcare roles. In 1998, he came to Perry County to become CEO of Hazard ARH and worked here for several years. He became close friends with former Hazard Mayor Bill Gorman and others. His visitation will be hosted at Cathedral Christ, the King Catholic Church in Lexington Friday. from 11 until the funeral mass at 1. Charles Housley was 85. When we return, some of the busiest airports in the U.S. are about to be audited after near runway collisions in Alaska earlier in the year.
We have a quite cold couple of days, but there is some good news coming up. I'll have the answer to what that is in a couple of minutes.